June 22nd, 2022, and it is roughly 3:30 in the afternoon. The meeting is hereby called to order. Our second item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes. I believe Daryl Lee sent y'all a whole pile of them from the past. He was getting caught up. So are there any modifications to the meeting minutes, or do I hear a motion to approve them?
I am going through all of them.
Okay, do you want to delay it till our next meeting so you have a chance to, because I know you can't read all of those right now. Okay. Okay, it has been moved to delay the approval of the meeting minutes until our next meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have delayed those meeting minutes for more reading time. Our first item is an amendment to the amended urban renewal and redevelopment plan for Arlington West End. So, Mr. Ward, is it working? Doesn't sound like it. We're definitely microphone challenged around here. Oh yeah, that's better.
Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Michael Ward, and I serve as principal planner. I'm in the city's Planning, Engineering, and Permits Department here at the city. And the first case is going over a proposal that's the amendment to the amended Arlington West End Urban Renewal Plan. Next slide. But one of the things I kind of want to go over first for our newer counselors is the fact that some people might not be too familiar with what an urban renewal plan is. Urban renewal plans are adopted by the city council, and it basically declares an area that contains blighting factors and deteriorating conditions. And it provides the city with a plan to eliminate that blight and blighting factors to promote redevelopment. Next slide. With the urban renewal plan, there are some incentives that a project that's located within an urban renewal plan district, could obtain, such as the clearing of land, the construction or reconstruction of streets, installation of utilities and other site improvements, assistance with property acquisition, as well as the city could be able to sell property that it owns for below market value to encourage and promote a redevelopment project. Next slide. Let's see, a brief history of urban renewal plans in the city. It gets its authority from the state of Alabama, chapters 2 and 3 of Title 24, the Code of Alabama. The city first adopted its community renewal plan in 1979, once these Alabama urban renewal laws were established. And since that time, the city has adopted roughly 44 urban renewal plans, mostly for economic development projects, as well as housing initiatives. Next slide. So a brief history of the Arlington West End Urban Renewal Plan. It was first adopted by the City Council October the 21st of 1991. And in April the 8th of 2003, it was amended to accommodate the Arlington West End Neighborhood Plan. And then a couple of months after that, July the 15th of 2003, it was amended again to promote an infill housing initiative in that neighborhood. Next slide. Now, the proposed amendment to the Arlington West End Urban Renewal Plan that's before you today, it's to extend the current urban renewal plan boundary to the northwest. And that expansion area includes the former Larkway Gardens apartment site. and that's roughly it's a little over an 18-acre site. So it's the city's plan to eventually to work with the property owner to work toward acquiring that site, and eventually working with a redeveloper to redevelop that site in the future. Next slide. Also, that's a part of your packet along with the proposed Arlington Western Urban Renewal Plan. You have an existing condition study for that expansion area. And it examined the conditions within that 27-acre study area to determine if that area qualifies as blighted based on Alabama urban renewal law. And based on that study, there's a strong presence of 6 of the 8 common blight factors within that study area, and there were 50 examples of blighting conditions that were identified. So the study concludes that there's presently a sufficient number of blight factors that's required by Alabama urban renewal law for the study area to be declared a blighted area. Next slide. So I just want to kind of give you a brief history of that Larkway Garden site. So those apartments were vacant since around 2007, and those abandoned buildings pretty much stretch across, those 8 parcels. Those vacant apartments, brought a lot of drugs, prostitution, and violence, to that area. And the neighborhood leaders at that time worked to try to get those vacant apartments demolished for several years. Next slide. So in October of 2015, the City Council declared the site a public nuisance and added Larkway Gardens to the demolition list. Council voted to spend almost $380,000 to demolish that site. In February of 2016, crews began to demolish the vacant Larkway Gardens buildings, and demolition liens were placed on the properties. And currently, the site, all 18 acres plus acres of 8 parcels, those 8 parcels are currently overgrown vegetation. And the pictures that you see in the report, those pictures were taken just last month. Next slide. And so the timeline that we have for the amended Arlington Western Urban Renewal proposal, let's see, it went before the Oakwood Place Neighborhood Association on April the 5th. And I'm sorry, I think I missed a slide. Let me go back. Yeah, that's the acquisition plan. I'm sorry. So what you see is the acquisition plan that highlights those 8 parcels that make up the Larkway Garden site. That the city would like to work with the developer to work toward acquiring for redevelopment. Next slide. So the timeline is that April the 5th of this year went before the Oakwood Place Neighborhood Association, and the neighborhood recommended approval of the amended plan. Also, May the 10th of this year, went before the Arlington West End Neighborhood Association, and the neighborhood recommended approval for this amended plan. Went before Birmingham Planning Commission June the 1st, and the Birmingham Planning Commission approved it and recommended that the full City Council recommend approval for that the Birmingham City Council adopts the plan. So I'm here today asking that you recommend approval, of the amended Arlington West End plan. And then from there, hope to move forward with placing an item on the council agenda for next week to set the public hearing for the plan. Then hopefully on August the 16th, the City Council will consider the amended Arlington West End Urban Renewal Plan. So are there any questions regarding our amended Arlington West End plan?
Can we go back to the drawing, the acquisition plan? The typeface is so tiny on the legend that I can't read it. So can you tell me, the red part on the drawing is that's Larkway Gardens?
Yes, yeah, those are the 8 parcels that make up the Larkway Garden site.
The yellow part with the red line around it is what?
That's a portion of the expansion area. Those properties are not marked for acquisition, but they are a part of the expansion area, but it's not a part of the acquisition area. Just those red parcels that make up the Larkway Garden site.
Okay, and the green is the current.
Yes, that's the current boundary area for the Arlington West End Urban Renewal Plan. Correct.
So why did that yellow part get left out? It looks like a natural to be in the original plan.
That I don't know. I'm not sure why that wasn't included in the previous plan. Not sure.
Well, it doesn't really matter. I was just curious because it appears that it should have been included to start with. And if you drive over there and drive around, you can't tell any difference between that property and the rest of the neighborhood. It's not like it was primo and needed to stay free and clear. Okay, are there other questions regarding this amendment?
No question. I'm familiar with the site. I think this would be a good addition to this renewal plan. And so I'm ready to vote. Unless there are any other questions, I'll make a motion.
Well, the other thing is the ownership of the property. And my recollection was when we demolished all of it, that the owner came back and cleared up the back taxes and some other problems that he had. So does a single owner still own the Larkway Gardens property?
Yes, all 8 parcels are still owned by one owner. And yes, at one point those parcels were tax delinquent, but they did go back and now they're up to date on their property taxes.
Okay, so they're up to date. So we have one person or one entity to deal with on Larkway Gardens.
That's correct.
And do we have an idea of what we want to do? Do we want to build more apartments there? Or we want to build single-family homes? Or does the city have a thought about it?
Not at this point. I believe where the process is that once the city works toward acquiring the properties, then submitting an RFP, to interested developers and just kind of looking at those development proposals, as they come in. But when you look at Vision 2025 that the mayor has, there is a big push for more housing, especially affordable housing in the city. And so I would think that would be an ideal location, for that. Yeah. And
certainly right now it looks like heck. We need a herd of goats to go visit it because it's so overgrown and awful looking. So this is good. So would anyone like to make a motion? Or is there anyone here from the public who wants to speak regarding this item? I see no one, so.
I move approval.
Okay, it has been moved and properly seconded that we send this to the full council with our recommendation. All in favor say aye. Aye. So this item passes, and we are on to our second and last item except for our guests.
Yeah, the next item is a proposed amendment to the Downtown West Urban Renewal Plan. Next slide. So a brief history of the Downtown West Urban Renewal Plan. It was adopted by the Birmingham City Council on September the 28th of 1993. It was amended on October the 15th of 2002, and that was to create the entrepreneurial district overlay. And on February the 9th of 2016, City Council approved an amendment to that plan to formally rename that entrepreneurial district to the Innovation District. Next slide. So with this proposed amendment to the Downtown West Urban Renewal Plan, The existing urban renewal district boundary, as well as the innovation district overlay boundaries, will remain the same. So the intent is to target the former Adams Inn site for acquisition and future redevelopment. Next slide. So a brief history of the Adams Inn site. I think in the beginning it was former Ramada Inn back in the 70s. Then it went through a couple of name changes. I think one was the Ahmad Inn, and then the last name that it had was the Adams Inn site. And on February the 4th of 2009, a fire broke out in that partially vacant hotel building. Then that building became vacant for good later in that year. And so over that time, the site basically became a nuisance, and in July of 2013, a fire destroyed part of that vacant structure. Then the City Council formally declared the site a public nuisance and approved $750,000 to demolish the building in November of 2013. Next slide. February of 2014, the former hotel building was the scene of another fire, and a man was found dead on the second floor. And so soon after that fatal fire, an emergency order was issued to demolish the building, and demolition work started in April of 2014. From there, demolition lien was placed on the property, and right now it's pretty much just currently overgrown vegetation that's currently on that site. Next slide. So this map is a map of the acquisition plan, and it targets that former Adams Inn property at 300 10th Street North. Next slide. And so the timeline for this plan is it went before the Birmingham Planning Commission on June the 1st, and the Planning Commission approved it and recommended that the City Council adopt the amended Downtown West Plan. So today I'm here before you to ask, for your recommendation, to recommend approval for this plan, so we can move forward in the process to set the public hearing, hopefully for August the 16th, and then work toward this item going before the full City Council on August the 16th for adoption. Any questions regarding the amended Downtown West Urban Renewal Plan?
Members of the committee have any questions?
So basically just this red box is the sole parcel that's being added on the map. I'm referring to the map.
Yeah. The area that's in red, that is the former Adams Inn site.
Okay.
And it's already a part of the Downtown West Urban Renewal Plan area.
Okay.
We're just highlighting that site because that's actually an acquisition map, and so we just want to highlight that particular parcel, and just so you can see that it's marked for acquisition.
All right, so what's changing specifically?
Yeah, there's nothing changing. The boundary itself for Downtown West already includes that Adams Inn site area. So the only thing that's changing is just the addition of an acquisition map to kind of show that parcel being marked for acquisition. That's the only thing that's being changed.
So do we need to approve this and send it to the full council because of the fact that you've added an acquisition plan to the, is that the amendment? Is there an amendment?
Yeah, that is the primary amendment. Also, one of the things that was done associated with the plan is that we updated the land use categories. Initially, the plan included land use categories that the city of Birmingham currently do not use. So we updated the land use plan map to reflect those new land use categories. But the primary reason for the amendment is to include that acquisition map to show the intent of acquiring the former Adams Inn site.
Okay. So What we would be recommending to the full council is the approval of the amendment to add the acquisition plan, and then the updated land use categories, of course, we can't see. So we don't,
Well, let's see. In your packet, you should have a copy of the Downtown West Urban Renewal Plan as proposed.
are the categories in here?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on page 4 of the plan, and it lists each of those categories, which are mixed-use downtown, general commercial. Then on page 5, it also includes light industrial. So those are the listed categories, and when you turn to the appendix, which is on page 14 of the document, it shows the proposed land use plan map that reflects those 3 land use categories. Of course, mostly it's going to be mostly mixed use downtown for most of that Downtown West area, and then there are some parcels that are currently used for light industry. And then let's see, in that top left corner is the Adams Inn site. That site is for the future land use is listed as general commercial. So we at least wanted the land use to reflect what's the land uses that are already in the that were approved with the comprehensive plan of the city. And for those parcels that are west of I-65, that was a part of the Western Area Framework Plan. And so those land use categories are reflected in the approved Western Area Framework Plan.
Okay, so we've got it all. And my only suggestion for the presentation to the full council is to make the legend where it's readable, because on my copies it's not really readable, the legend part. You can see the colors, but the words. And I have UAB glasses, so I know it's not my glasses.
We could do that.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Just clarity. You said some of the uses changed. You got mixed use downtown, general commercial, light industrial. Nothing's changing with nothing's being added or taken away from that original list.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, what it is that these are land use categories that we are currently using, that are currently so let's see, let me go back. As part of the comprehensive plan, there were there are land use categories that were created. One of the ones that were created were associated with mixed use districts, like mixed use downtown, so on and so forth. And when we approved when the comprehensive plan was approved, there was also a land use plan that was approved for all 23 communities. And so that's reflected of what was approved associated with the comprehensive plan, that land use plan. That's what was already approved and adopted back in 2014. So that's we're just reflecting what was already approved. And previously, the last time, previously the Downtown West plan didn't reflect those land use categories that were already approved. And so that's all we're showing. We're just showing what's been already approved.
Okay. I was just trying to be clear on what was being added specifically to the plan. So I move approval.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. So that will be sent to the full council with our recommendation for approval.
Thank you.
So thank you. Now, we have one other item It's not actually an item. Representative Moore came by at the last meeting and wanted to know if they could present some thoughts to us at our next meeting. And so, Representative Moore, do you want to come up and tell us about your thoughts? And your group's thoughts?
If we divide them up so they don't be long, because it covers, first, I'm Representative Mary Moore, and most of the concerns are concerns all over the city, but we've been experiencing quite a few different issues with the zoning staff and the Birmingham zoning ordinances. And our primary goal here is that we started meeting last year, looking at the zoning ordinances of the city of Birmingham, as well as the county of Jefferson, because of its impact that it has had on our community in a negative way for quite some time. Got different sections that, two different zoning situations we have that have come up that probably spurred us to want to come and meet with the committee. One is crematoriums, and the other one is Airbnbs. And so in the process of first dealing with the crematorium, once the Zoning Board of Adjustment met and made their ruling, and we approached the staff, and the staff told us that we had no opportunity to appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which I thought that's, not to be able to appeal a ruling seemed somewhat not in order. So therefore, I went to our legal team in Montgomery to ask them to pull the act that created the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which I find out that act was created in the late 20s. It's only been amended 1935. All of the other additions that have been made to the act resulted as a series of court cases from different cities over time. Now, what we found out was that we did have an appeal process. And when you read the act, and I think some copies might have been given out, in it, it allows us at least a 15-day period for us to appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. We were told that we had to go to court. And that was our only appeal process, which was misinformation. And before I go further, once we presented the act that created the Zoning Board of Adjustment to the staff, they told us that they had to give it to the law department for them to review. But if you go through your zoning book, Appendix A8, starting on page 18 in the back of the zoning book, all of this information is there. With the information to tell us that we had a 15-day period in which we could have appealed to the Zoning Board of Adjustments rather than paying $250 to go to court, plus an additional $13 if we wanted the applicant served to know that we were appealing. Then we were told that for each person in the community that wanted to be a part of the appeal, they had to pay $100 too. And I don't think the average community can come up with monies like that. So we ended up doing the court proceeding, and then we understood we had an appeal. Our concern is that over time we realized that for some reason the zoning staff has not been honest with us. Once we read the act, we learn that you just can't arbitrarily use variances in order for us in a situation where the property needed to be rezoned. You can't just arbitrarily use a variance and come back and then say that it's a non-conforming business. Those are some of the issues we are concerned with, and that needs to be looked at by the zoning staff or whatever procedure that you have in order for our communities to get better information on the process of zoning and rezoning property. Coupled with that, we have our framework plan. You got your framework plan where I already said how we would like to see properties used in the district, knowing that we can't force an owner to do something, but that owner does need to be to know that this is what the community has put in place. It was approved by the zoning board as well as the city council. So our biggest issue is the misinformation that has been given to us over the years, and our concern that the zoning ordinances in many cases in the city of Birmingham are outdated. Because everything, when you look through the whole book, you got so much that refers to industry. And we know that we used to be a big industrial capital. Well, those companies, they've changed over the years. And even when you look at a park, for a park to be put into a neighborhood, it comes under industry too. To me, that's a little much. And in talking with developers, what I've learned from the realtors as well as the builders, one of the concerns they have with Birmingham is that the way its zoning ordinances are put up, and if they want to build a middle income or a better community and they want to put a park there, and you put a park there, and that park could be comes under industry and everything else, the average person will look at that as that they're devaluing their property because they wanted a park in their neighborhood. We believe that in reviewing the zoning ordinances, all of them, that we need to go back and come up with new zonings to meet the needs of the citizens of the city of Birmingham, because these were put in an era where industry was the top-notch business in this city. And we know big industry controlled this city for a long time. Industry itself is changing. The way they do their production is changing. So the city has to change also. In relationship to North Birmingham, I looked in the book, and on chapter 8, section 1, Article 4 on page 284, we realized that because we are a food desert, we should have some type of protection. And in light of the fact that the crematorium is the thing, and the battle for it opened our eyes and encouraged us to look through these zoning ordinances, we have one grocery store out there. That one grocery store serves the county. It goes all the way up until you get to Fultondale. Then the next grocery store you're going to come in contact with is Walmart on 78. Or you got to come to First Avenue North and 60-some Street to come up with a Piggly Wiggly. But it seems as though there's zoning staff and looking at businesses that ask to come into the North Birmingham area. They are not taking in consideration the overlay because we are a food desert. We do know that the city council at one point looked at the fact that we didn't need any other polluters in the area and tried to protect us, even though the Jefferson County court system did not agree with us because they didn't do their due diligence either. So our primary purpose is to lodge our complaint that we do not think that the zoning ordinance and the way that they have been used over time has been in a positive spirit for the citizens of Birmingham, period, because most of us have the same issues. Different members of our group, is a very short presentation coming from all of them, but we're just asking that we could join, and we met with the zoning staff over and over again, and they know that we're going through the book and looking at how things are zoned, and we brought in other citizens to look at it too, so that we can make a recommendation to your committee as well as to the staff on some modifications that need to be made in order for us to go into the older neighborhoods in the city of Birmingham and bring them up to par, where people will want to move into our residential communities and not only just move into downtown in the loft area of Birmingham, but we do believe these zoning ordinances have set us back, and they have been a stumbling block, a roadblock for development. I've talked with several developers to try to bring them in to start redeveloping the 6 neighborhoods that make up North Birmingham. They all have the same problem, that we're somewhat locked in, and Birmingham's zoning ordinances is not to our benefit. And we're willing to work. When Ms. Brown comes up, she'll talk about Airbnbs. We went so far there as to get some what other cities have put in place. Birmingham does not have an ordinance for Airbnbs, just like Birmingham does not have an ordinance for crematoriums. They have a burning ordinance, but they do not have an ordinance for crematoriums. EPA suggests you don't put crematoriums in residential neighborhoods. ADM follow the same requirement that EPA has. Yet, the Zoning Board of Adjustment approved a crematorium in an area that has overlay protection, that is, the city council themselves voted in one of our issues to say we don't need anything else coming into that area that could be a possible polluter to continue to endanger the health of the citizens that's there. So if you would allow us to come in and make the presentation, Mr. Ken Johnson has some issues because he lives in the Winewood area, and they have some concerns that are similar to ours. But we figured you needed to hear how the zoning ordinances of the city of Birmingham are impacting all of us, some more than others. But in some of our cases, it has left us in a deteriorated, blighted area because of the ordinances that are in place. So I'm going to ask...
Okay, before we move on, I want to make sure none of this is in litigation, is it?
The only thing that we brought to you is the act, and the fact that the act is in your book and does not have to go to the law department. That's the purpose of it. Our situation there is in litigation. That's why I didn't go into any details. But the only thing that we wanted to let you know, that we were told that this document, that Birmingham knew nothing about it, that...
Now, what is this document?
This is the act that created the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
So this is state law.
State law.
It doesn't say anything on it about what it is. It says zoning in Alabama, which
The 1923 Alabama legislature passed Act 443 to give all municipalities in the state the authority to zone all territories located within the corporate limit. This act is presently codified in Section 115270 Code of Alabama 1975.
Okay, so this is the law.
This is the law. And
so we don't have to go to Section 11-52-70 Code of Alabama because you've given it to us.
Because this is it.
Okay.
And what we were told is that it was not a part of Birmingham's zoning book, which it is. It's in this section we call Appendix 18. We were told that in order for us to be able to deal with it, that it would have to go to the law department, which has been there for several months now, and we haven't heard anything about it. But in this document here, when we were told that we had to go to court, that we were not able to file an appeal with the Zoning Board of Adjustment, that was not the truth. It was not the truth.
Okay, so you're saying you wanted to file an appeal with them, or you wanted to appeal their decision?
Right, and we have that right. But we were told that we could appeals to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. On page 403 in the document we gave you, we were told we did not have that appeal right.
Well, I think what she's saying is this topic is currently...
No, the topic is not in litigation. what we're bringing to you is that you have this document, and it's part of the zoning ordinance for the city of Birmingham, and we were told that it was not.
Okay.
That's the issue we're bringing to you today, that this document is a part of your zoning ordinance. It tells you how to file an appeal without going into litigation, and that it needs to be duly noted for other neighborhoods who come up that would have an appeal, that process has already been adopted by your committee, recommended to the city council, and has been a part of the zoning ordinance documents for quite some time.
Okay,
But there's
well,
a claim filed against the city related to this currently.
Pardon?
There's a claim filed.
Not with the ordinance itself. Our reason
Okay.
we're bringing this to you is to say that you have it. We were told that this did not exist in the city of Birmingham zoning ordinances. It does. It's in your book. It's Appendix A10.
Okay.
That's the issue we're bringing to you.
Got it.
And in it outlines the process for going before the zoning board of adjustment. If there's an appeal before the zoning board of adjustment, it tells you that. The other issue that's in here that we asked questions about was variances and how variances are used. They're not supposed to be used if a piece of property has to be rezoned. You can't come back and say we'll do a variance.
No, there's no such thing as a use variance. That's illegal.
Well-
we don't do use variances in
Well-
Birmingham.
Well, they use them in our neighborhood council all the time. And then they come back and tell us because of the variance, now it's a non-conforming business because we don't have the zone for it. So this is what we're going to fit it in, and then we're going to say it's a non-conforming business. In fact, we had one situation out on Daniel Payne where the neighborhood and the framework committee was waiting to get with the zoning department for us to give a final say on what conditions we wanted on the property, but we never heard anything about it. So when we got a chance to meet with the new director for the department and her staff, and we were told in the meeting, oh, we just put down the Q conditions for you. And then we just sent it on to the zoning committee without the community. Neighborhood president from Hooper City was in the meeting. They didn't know that the staff itself decided what the community wanted. So we have a lot of concerns that we just want to sit down, go over, show you where we're coming from and the impact of what has been happening over time to where we live.
Okay, so I just, we're going to listen to your concerns today. We
Yeah.
don't have all afternoon.
No, we don't. That's why we divide.
And we're not going to say a word about any kind of litigation because that's
That's
not.
why I haven't said anything about
Yeah,
litigation.
but-
I know you
but
all were
I
waiting
want-
for me to say it.
I do want to point out that people can appeal to the zoning board of adjustment
That's
if they
right.
don't like the zoning administrator's decisions.
Right.
But if you are appealing a decision made by the zoning board of adjustment, you have to go to court.
No, ma'am, you need to read the article.
Well,
Let me go to page 8. The page in here, it says
I'm on
that
page 403. Where'd you find a page 8?
403, that's the one. And I ran that by our attorneys in the state because once the zoning board of adjustment has made a ruling, what the court said in this case is that they, in most cases, a period of 3 weeks is a sufficient time for an appeal to be made to the zoning board of adjustment. The board of adjustment may provide deadlines for appeal procedures.
Yeah,
The intent is-
but that's appealing the decision of a zoning administrator. If you want to appeal
ma'am.
the decision of the zoning board of adjustment, you look at the top of the next, same page, but the second column, it says appeals from decisions of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. That's the one where you have to go to court.
Well, no, ma'am. Our attorneys went through all of it, and what they came up with is that it has been misinterpreted all of the time.
But you said this is state law.
I am. But these court cases that have happened over time, because they said the problem with this, it hasn't been amended since 1935. But due to so many court cases, the court cases that have dealt with different issues dealing with the Zoning Board of Adjustments, they have been coded in this act rather than the legislature itself having gone back and amended it.
Okay.
And they have accepted.
yeah.
That's why I didn't go into details on that.
Yeah, we'll read through it because...
Yeah, that's all we're asking is that, and that for some of these other situations, we just got two people to speak on situations that have come up and why we believe we have to be protected in our area that is so, in the past, has been so polluted and has caused so many illnesses. What I got my report from the state last time, in zip code 35207, in a 1-year span, we had 15 cases of pollution-related cancers, compared to 11 cases in 66 counties.
Okay. Well, we're already working on the Airbnb issue, so that's this pile. And then...
Yeah, when we bought those so that you could look at those, so that you could see what other cities have done. Because, and Ms. Brown will tell you the situation that has happened there. That person was given a rental permit, and I'll let her talk about it, and the problem that is presented, because those all senior citizens.
Okay, well, we're here, but we'd like, briefly. Good afternoon.
My name is Anna Brown. I reside 3115 24th Street. And I am here to speak to you today about the Airbnb. And in our packet, I enclosed some information from some of our surrounding cities that have had the Airbnbs and they've had problems with them. The number one thing that is united with all of those communities are the fact that they have put a moratorium on Airbnbs in residential districts. Now, in my area, I'm about the youngest thing that's in the block. We have plenty of elderly and disabled people there. But we've had a person to come in to be allowed to redo a whole house without getting a building permit from the city. They never got the permit to do the work. They did all the work. Now they've opened it up and said it's going to be an Airbnb. They have been renting that house out every night for about the last month. If you go on Facebook, you can go in and rent it. They lowered the price in the beginning. It was $243 a night. Now they went down to $186 a night. I was told by zoning that they were given a 13 rental, that they can come in and rent their property, but they was also given a one-time event license. You cannot hold an event in an Airbnb. You cannot hold an event in a residential district. The house is zoned residential, single-family dwelling, as with every house in that block. I have talked to zoning. I have volunteered from up to 3 to 4 years ago before Mr. Revelle even left. We started working on our framework plan. We realized that the laws that are in this zoning book that you have right here, and I've read it from front to back, the laws that you have here, most of them no longer apply. We have new things coming into the city. My question was, do we not have anybody in the city of Birmingham to forecast trends and anything that likely would come into Birmingham? If so, why do we have to wait until you have neighbors come down here before you with complaints about different things before we decide to put something on the books to regulate. As with the crematorium and with the Airbnbs. There's no regulations on there, but yet the city do get taxes off of them, supposedly. They get lodging taxes off of them, supposedly. But yet and still, people can just come in and open up these kind of businesses in a neighborhood without having to go to the neighborhood, without having to vote on by the people, and we're just supposed to accept it. Now, I've been told by zoning for the last 2 or 3 months, well, we're going to get a committee together because, you know, some people like it, some people don't. We going to get it together. When are we going to get something together that's going to protect us?
Well, just so you'll know, the council and this committee, we will be the ones who make a proposal because we've been waiting too long. We get the runaround just like you do. Just because...
And I thank you for that because if you need some help to work with it, I would be happy to work with it.
Well, it's a problem in our residential neighborhoods because our residential neighborhoods are being used as places to run businesses. And I don't want a hotel next to me, and I don't think anybody in this room wants a hotel next to them.
Right.
And they don't want transients and different people showing up every day. They want families in their neighborhoods. And in my district, we have one street with 5 Airbnbs on it. People have bought the houses and turned them into hotels, and the city has no laws to deal with it. I mean, that's what I've been told. Our ordinance doesn't...
And trust me, I've gone through this whole zoning book trying to find anything that's related to Airbnbs, crematoriums. The only closest thing that we got to an Airbnb is a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, and you have to be zoned for a bed and breakfast. So we know there's a problem, and I think all of us are probably hearing it, some districts more than others, because if you're near some kind of attraction, of course, people want to buy up houses in your neighborhood and turn them into these things so that they can make money. I mean, money is the root of really all of our problems. So, you know, if they had to let people stay there for free, we wouldn't have them. But an event center in a residential neighborhood, a permit for an event, I would love to know who did that, but I don't want to know here while we're being taped. But
thing is that I think that all of our neighborhoods that is what this law that set up the zoning board of adjustment is supposed to be protected. And if you look at what Homewood had on their ordinance, that was the purpose of their law. Protect their residents, protect their neighborhoods. Okay.
Yeah, and Irondale and all the others.
Homes or have bought their homes. Those are the people that's going to be here in the city. Those are the people paying the taxes. Those are the people that are here for the long haul. And we should not have to sit here and be subjected to kind of businesses because people want to drag their feet about creating the
Yeah. Well, we know we're behind. We're behind almost all the other municipalities in the area because of whatever reason it is.
Well, I had to shorten it up because of the paper shortage. I didn't want to be many of them at one time, but nearly every suburb, every city that is surrounding us, they have had issues. At first, they thought it was a bright idea, but now they realize that it's a problem because these people tell us, oh, we're only going to do one thing. And when they get a permit to open up, they do whatever they want to do. And nobody, when you call enforcement is not coming. It takes you forever to get them out there. By the time they get there, everything is over with. I shouldn't have to stand in my front door to tell people, you can't park in front of my house because somebody next door to me is having an event and what's supposed to be a rental property. I shouldn't have to do that.
No, you shouldn't.
And no other person should have to do that. So I applaud you for doing that, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to let the rest of them come up and speak because that's where I wanted to hear from you.
Councilman,
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Ms. Brown?
Yeah, please.
So there's a site in your neighborhood right now that's acting as an event center that's in a residential district?
Yes, it's
What's that
supposed to be an Airbnb.
What's that
It's
address?
3105 24th Street North. It's supposed to be an Airbnb, but they're having events. As a matter of fact, on June 10th, they had an event where you had cars parked across the street in an empty lot, all along the other areas. I asked them to move from in front of my house because they were not visiting there. On June 3rd, they had a graduation party there. He has been renting this house out ever since the second week in May.
Okay. And
There
you
have
said,
been several events there where they've had people there. They have concreted the backyard, so they have 5 parking spaces, but they use more spaces than that.
gotcha. And this is 3105 24th Street North?
3105 24th Street North.
Right. And you said they also did some building improvements without permits?
That's correct. We reported them. I got Ms. Brundage to come and send someone out there, and she sent someone out there the day that they poured the concrete in the backyard. Again, without a permit. We were able to get someone to come out before that concrete dried so they could see what had been done.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
And I will share the other information with you after.
And I want you to know that this Airbnb thing, I have just gotten started on it because I got tired of waiting. So, you know, I think we're all working towards the same goal. And I'm sure the Office of the City Attorney is working towards the same goal. It's just they've got so much on their plate that this keeps falling off. So we're just going to pick it up and work on it on our own. But they still have to approve it. So everything that's proposed by the City Council still has to go through the Office of the City Attorney. It's just that, it's time for us to start working on our own.
But I'm hoping
plan.
this will be the beginning of the fact that we can stop being reactive to everything and start being proactive. Because
Absolutely.
when we see these events happening in other places, we know it's only a matter of time before it comes to the city of Birmingham.
We're usually about 10 years behind everybody else, so we should have seen it coming. But anyway, okay, so you have another speaker. Thank you for...
And thank you so much for listening.
And then we're going to wrap it up after this because we did not intend to spend the afternoon on this, and our members have places to be and things to do, so...
Afternoon, I understand. Live in the Echo House. One of the things I
Mr. Johnson, you're 6 feet away from everybody. Would it be okay if you took off your mask so we could understand you better? Thank you.
that better?
Yeah. We just couldn't understand you, and that would defeat the whole point.
You can't tell the difference. 4 years car accident. But what I came to talk to you about is the issue in our neighborhood. Neighborhood overwhelmingly voted no. Last time I remember, this was supposed to be something planned what we wanted. Our voice got ignored. Showed it multiple times, but we ended up something's being forced upon us. When I read a news article coming from Washington, D.C., talked about sacrifice zones. All the things that they talked about, that how we're affected, how we die, coming from the toxins that we're closely. Did not want to add another source of something that could harm. I have 2 kids that were glad. Myopia from being exposed to gas stations. There are a lot of stuff, white papers of which an institution that study and the sacrifice zones that done by 11 universities said that all these things are what's making African Americans who live and against what we wanted. The other part of this, some of the things that we have, make sure that we are safe in some arenas and covenants. Council not step across those covenants. Say, well, yeah, you can, no, you can't. Actually done in Jefferson County area. Out there, that these are the laws. One of the ladies just talked about one of the other issues that when I was working, I had to get a business license in the city of Birmingham. Write software in my own house. But we have people who are doing, they don't get a business license. I had to. So some of the things that you are doing are good. Some things, I'm kind of wondering, how do we get to, we're not on the same page. Something that we don't want in our neighborhood. We're the ones who have to live there 24 hours. I wonder, my wife said, what if they had to live next to it? How would they feel? About 2 months ago, a lady lives in New York, company somewhere in Birmingham. During the last holiday, they had a shootout 4 houses down from where I live. Rental property. How do we get to that point where I have to have a business license just to write software in my own? Somebody else can rent property in the neighborhood. Nobody knows it until we call the cops. If they do get there, when they get there, there's nothing to say that, hey, property, can't do this. Plain. So much that has to be done to make sure if this was a law that they could, they have to be registered. They're just making money without paying any taxes. Birmingham made me taxes developing software inside my house. I thought something was wrong with that.
Well, we have a lot of people that don't get business licenses. I mean, this is a problem in Birmingham, and we have a company that we've hired to help us catch them, but they don't catch everybody. So, you know, sometimes you just have to report things until somebody notices. You know, that's what I do in my neighborhood. We all have to do it. I imagine people in Homewood do it. You know, if somebody opens up a business next door to them, they have to report it to somebody. So, you know, we will take all this under advisement. And the only thing, we're not involved in any litigation. We have absolutely nothing to do with litigation, and we can't even comment on it. But we can work on the Airbnb problem because our job is actually legislative. You know, the mayor is in charge of all the administrative things, and I can't ask anybody to do any work here at City Hall. We're all very aware of our limitations. So we will take the parts of what you've given us under advisement to look at and see if there's any legislative solutions that we can do. But if it's an administration type thing, if somebody's running a business in your neighborhood, you have to report that to 311 or the mayor's office or whoever, because the council can commiserate with you and we can sympathize with you and we can be on your side, but we can't tell anybody to do anything.
I understand that, but the fact is that we've had trying to get back to normal, but having to deal with this more than just, random thing. But the other thing is that I live on 1.5 acres. And during the process of what should be one versus E1, whatever, look at it now, it's $75,000. My house when I bought it because I was paying. That's being taken away. Instead of it being a state property, it's not a state property by zone. There are lots bigger than my house off of Harlem Springs. They're like, instead of 1.5 acres, they're like 2 or 3 acres. Change it something else. So we're going to make this instead of a state property. Now you're taking away money paid for. As a regular house, it's not didn't say that it's worth the money that we actually pay.
No, zoning doesn't have anything to do with the value of your property.
If you take it from a state property and make it property, you are taking the value out.
Okay, well, if you say so. I'm zoned E1. I'm zoned E1, and I won't be zoned E1 after all the changes are made, and I do not expect the value of my property to drop. But we can discuss that later. We need to close this down and get moving on to the rest of the things we have to do today, and we appreciate y'all coming and bringing your concerns to us. We just want you to understand our limitations in what we can do. Okay? So we have limitations, believe it or not. They're given to us by the legislature, by the way. Sure, quickly. Come up to the microphone.
First thing is this. His situation with the crematory was not in litigation. That's a different situation. And we do know that you're limited, but we wanted to go to each hard factor in our zoning issue. We wanted to come to the zoning committee. Eventually, we're going to our city council, we're going to our mayor, and we want to work on it on a state level. But some of the issues that we already have tried in the past, because we didn't follow this procedure, with our concerns before we did some type of legislation, when it hit the zoning, city council zoning people, they didn't like it. So we thought with this time, we just give a notice that we're looking at everything. We want to eventually come back to you and make a recommendation. We'll do the same thing with the mayor, same thing with the city council, and we've been talking ongoing with the zoning staff.
Okay, and that's good. And we have a relatively new zoning ordinance, and we know, I mean, Mr. Gambrell and I have had numerous conversations. We know when we pass a new ordinance, we're always going to find problems with it, and then we try to go through and methodically fix the problems. And, well, you know, that's the process. But our zoning ordinance is what, about 3 years old now, or is it 4 years
Well,
old?
yeah, it's longer than that. We adopted, the big rewrite was adopted in September of 2015.
Well, time flies.
Yeah.
We're having a good
And then we've had
time.
subsequent amendments, since then, the food desert, the healthy food overlay, other items that have been added since then.
And there's still lots of things that need to be done, but we appreciate y'all's time. And do we have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye.